This is just wild. This is truly a wild clip.
Should be disqualifying.
It should be disqualifying, 100%. And I just want to make these things very clear that we're going to get into in this clip here. Chuck Schumer, who is one of the leaders of the Democratic Party, you could argue he is the leader of the Democratic Party. He's at least sitting in one of the most important and influential positions in the Democratic Party, which is the minority leader in the Senate because they've lost so badly. This is him talking about Israel, about Gaza, and about the United Nations. And I just want this to be very clear to people. This is a fanatic. This is a fanatic speaking. Noting all the things that the right is doing, noting all the horrible things that Trump is doing and wants to do, recognizing that this is the quote-unquote opposition party to the right-wing lunacy, that this is the leader of that party, should worry you.
And it is vicious of the opponents to call it genocide. Criticize it, for sure.
So obviously he's talking about domestic protests against the slaughtering of children and the genocide, which we'll get into who recognizes that as that in a second.
Say Israel went too far, for sure. To use, and you know what it does? It increases anti-Semitism because they're making Israel and the Jewish people look like monsters, which they are not.
I will say it's a word that a UN special.
Do you want to say something about it before?
I just want to say you're the one doing the conflation, Chuck.
Yeah.
Like I think most people don't think of Israelis and American Jews as the same fucking thing. It's fucking stupid.
100%. I think that's a really important point. Yeah, and people like Chuck who have done everything that they can to try to conflate criticism of the state of Israel with Judaism in general. Yeah, they do a lot of damage. That's on
making Israel and the Jewish people look like monsters, which they are not.
I will say it's a word that a UN special committee has used.
Please, the UN has been anti-Israel, anti-Semitically against Israel, double standard. Moynihan was my idol. He
Since
became
what?
famous
Since it
when in
created
1976 they tried to pass a resolution, Zionism is racism. To say that the Jewish people should not have a state when every other people should have a state is anti-Semitism, the old double standard ipso facto. And the international organizations, I have no faith in them being fair. These same international organizations, when horrible things go in Darfur or China or wherever, they look the other way.
I'm curious how you think about how protests.
I want to separate these two clips out here. I mean, what he's saying in that bit, that is like membership in the John Birch Society level of fanaticism, right? Like that
should be a Republican.
A far right kind of position that he's taking on this, right? Because he is so fanatical about Israel and its supposed right to expel people, to deny people food, water, healthcare, to deny people their home, literally their history. The history of Palestinian people has been attacked left and right by the state of Israel, right? Because they want to deny not just people living today, but the historical artifacts, presence, reminders that, yes, there were people here who were brutally removed from their homes so that other people could come and live there, right? And this whole bullshit, by the way, about, we need to have one country for me, right, is a fanatical position. It is not a normal position to argue for. First of all, arguing that we should have ethno-states in the first place is as reactionary as it gets, right? And just want to be as clear as possible, because for years people have had to tiptoe around this. Zionism, from its like basic genealogy, right? The germ of the idea of Zionism is a reactionary right-wing idea. If I started saying, that like, I think my people deserve a homeland, you would know exactly what kind of politics I was representing. But for some reason, people have refused to sort of do the math on what it is when people who support Israel are saying that. And the fact of the matter is it's not a hypothetical. It's not a thought experiment. It's not a question or a conversation. We have seen what the decades of this war and this occupation and this slaughtering, and yes, as the United Nations recognizes, genocide has meant for the people of Palestine, but also for the globe.
Yeah. I mean, Zionism is ISIS for Jews. And this whole thing that goes on with the Columbia students wouldn't let a Zionist, they say wouldn't let Jews on campus.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, let's take a look at that a little bit closer, because we all know that many of the protesters themselves are Jewish. What do you actually mean?
100%.
You mean a Zionist. And that is a fascistic nationalism that nobody should, again, like the idea, like you said, of Israel is purely, and this is why Richard Spencer, the white nationalist, liked Israel, is preferring one demographic and actually not just preferring it, but manufacturing and then maintaining a demographic majority for one certain kind of person at the expense of another. That is just what Israel is. And so, yes, and I mean, it is shocking, but it shouldn't be, really. And you can imagine, like, folks who like look at this from the lens, like, how could and Terrence Ray had a good tweet here. Let me put this up. Yeah, I appreciate he writes that people are finally fed up with Schumer. However, I really don't care if they depose him for a stronger leader, a Bernie Crowder, whoever. Until the Democratic Party purges itself of racism against Palestinians, it is a lost cause, cannot be reformed. And he points out, like, the two issues are intimately bound with one another. But it's just shocking that this guy could be talking about international institutions of international law like that.
I mean, again, because they don't take it seriously, because every fanaticism is justified when it comes to Israel. At this point, I mean, you want to hear this second bit, because he has some opinions on Khalil that they're not going to be particularly strong.
And it is
it's going to be mealy mouth bullshit.
Which is so, again, despicable as we're watching what we're watching, where the Trump administration is literally trying to take away your rights as an American citizen, to freedom of speech here. The fact that the leader of the opposition party can't even come up with a strong statement on this shows that, again, his fanaticism is disqualifying because it is wicked and evil. But it is extra disqualifying in this moment because it means that he won't even stand up for your rights as an American, because he is so fanatically devoted to the Israeli project.
They look the other way.
Mass slaughter.
I'm curious how you think about how protests then should be addressed, considering the context of what you just said. The Trump administration just announced they're pulling $400 million in funding from Columbia University, giving the reason as, quote, relentless violence, intimidation, and anti-Semitic harassment. I'm wondering what you make of that.
Columbia did not do enough. I criticize.
So first thing he's going to say here is, I agree with the Trump administration that Columbia is doing something wrong. When in fact, what Columbia has done to these students has been horrible.
And believe me, I believe in free speech. I believe in the right to protest. As you read in my book, I started my career protesting the Vietnam War. I say to some people, if I were your age, the younger people protesting, I'd be protesting something or other. So I get that, and I love it, and it's about America.
It's insane, by the way. And no, you wouldn't. You've made it abundantly clear what side you would be on in this struggle. What are you
Begs the
about?
question, does he think he was wrong to have been protesting the Vietnam War now?
Yeah, no. It's like, well, that's just when you're young, you just take silly positions on things.
When it shades over to violence and anti-Semitism, the colleges had to do something, and a lot of them didn't do enough. They shrugged their shoulders, looked the other way, etc., Columbia among them. Okay. So what did they do? They took away $400 million. I'm trying to find out where that $400 million, what they took away. Are they taking away money from cancer research at Columbia, at New York Presbyterian, which is part of Columbia, or Alzheimer's, which are doing good things? What is the $400 million? It could be hurting all students. students who go there who have nothing to do with the protests, students who might have protested peacefully, or Jewish students who were victims of some of those protests.
This is this is an interesting point, Matt. So he agrees here that collective punishment is a crime and is morally wrong, right? Collective punishment is wrong. But for some reason, when it comes to Gaza, Hamas is just using Palestinian children as human shields, right? Oh, they have done something wrong, so therefore the killings that are happening there, the mass slaughter that is happening there is justified. Collective punishment is a crime against humanity, right? And you just see the two sides of his mouth on this issue, where when it's literally kids being killed, women, men, all kinds of people being killed in Gaza. Oh, you know what? It's complicated and we got to think this through. But when it comes to Colombia, it's like, oh, is Trump being too broad at doing collective punishment? Now, this is a problem, right? It really is notable, right, where these moral lines are. And it literally never has anything to do with these basic questions of human rights. He's got a little bit more. And again, I just wanted to say, and I'm sorry, I know I've been repeating myself. This is the leader of the opposition party. Donald Trump is trying to test his ability to take away your rights to free speech, your rights to citizenship. I'm not being overly dramatic. This is the plan. This is a test case. They want to see how much they can get away with. And this is what he is going to say in response to this crisis.
I think we have to see, my worry is that this $400 million was just done in typical Trump fashion, indiscriminately, without looking at its effect.
And what do you make of what happened over the weekend when ICE arrested Mahmoud Khalil, a Columbia graduate who is Palestinian, an activist, and a green card holder, who was one of the few participants in last year's campus protest to identify himself publicly? And apparently Trump has made good on his campaign pledge and is set to deport him because of his participation.
Look, I don't know all the details yet. They're trying to come out, and there'll be a court case which will determine it. If he broke the law, he should be deported. If he didn't break the law and just peacefully protested, he should not be deported. It's plain and simple.
So super strong statement there from Chuck Schumer. And people, I suggest you go and listen to the interview. You can listen to it. She sort of pushes back and says, like, hey, this seems like a big issue. And I'm curious what your position is. And he goes, well, it's simple. So he takes a non-position on Trump's war on your basic democratic rights. That's the leader of the opposition party at a moment of historical crisis.
Mahmoud Khalil has released a letter from a detention center in Louisiana, which does echo MLK letter from a Birmingham jail. But I'll just say one line from it here. Knowing fully that this moment transcends my individual circumstances, I hope nonetheless to be free to witness the birth of my firstborn child. Put up a little bit more of this here. My name is Mahmoud Khalil, and I am a political prisoner. I'm writing to you from a detention facility in Louisiana where I wake to cold mornings and spend long days bearing witness to the quiet injustices underway against a great many people precluded from the protections of the law. Who has the right to have rights? It is certainly not the humans crowded into the cells here. It isn't the Senegalese man I met who has been deprived of his liberty for a year, his legal situation in limbo, and his family an ocean away. It isn't the 21-year-old detainee I met who has stepped foot in this country at age 9, only to be deported without so much as a hearing. Justice escapes the contours of this nation's immigration facilities. On March 8th, I was taken by DHS agents who refused to provide a warrant and accosted my wife and me as we returned from dinner. By now, the footage of that night has been made public. Before I knew what was happening, agents handcuffed and forced me into an unmarked car. At that moment, my only concern was for Noura's safety. I had no idea if she would be taken too, since the agents had threatened to arrest her for not leaving my side. DHS would not tell me anything for hours. I did not know the cause of my arrest or if I was facing immediate deportation. At 26 Federal Plaza, I slept on the cold floor in the early morning hours. Agents transported me to another facility in Elizabeth, New Jersey. There I slept on the ground and was refused a blanket despite my request. My arrest was a direct consequence of exercising my right to free speech as I advocated for a free Palestine and an end to the genocide in Gaza, which resumed in full force Monday night. With January's ceasefire now broken, parents in Gaza are once again cradling two small shrouds, and families are forced to waste starvation and displacement against bombs. It is our moral imperative to persist in the struggle for their complete freedom. That's just a section of this letter which everyone I would encourage to seek out and read and share.